Hi, and welcome to Simple Steps. I'm your host, Ryan Daniels, licensed financial advisor, financial coach, and owner of RFinances. I'm so thankful for Tony and the South Penn Task Force for inviting me to share some information with you today about how to take control of money and have confidence when you make financial decisions. RFinances, our mission here is to support communities by building financially strong families. And we do that through partnerships with places like South Penn, where we can have workshops, seminars, and then we do also offer one-on-one coaching for families that are looking for help to go from where they're at to where they want to be financially. So my first question to you guys is, what did you learn about money in school? If you're like most people, it wasn't very much. And that leads to the challenges and confusion for a lot of families when it comes to money. And so what I want you to do is go to our website, rfinances.com/worksheet. There you're going to find a quick worksheet to go through. It's going to help you evaluate where you're currently at. And then that's the first steps to be able to make changes and improvements moving forward. The whole goal is that you're able to build a plan that fits your life and gets you as quick as possible to the goals that you have. After completing that worksheet, you might be wondering, how do I take control of money? How do I stop guessing all the time when it comes to making decisions and ultimately have confidence and build a plan that fits with my life? Well, to get there, you got to know the end goal. That's called your financial freedom number. It's the amount of money you need saved up and working for you so you can stop working for money and do whatever you want in life. At the bottom of that worksheet, you'll see the instructions on how to calculate your financial freedom number. And that's going to be by going to rfinances.com/calculators. I'll give you a couple moments to go through that. And then afterwards, I want to know what you're thinking. It's probably something like this. It's going to take me forever to get to that goal. What happens if you don't reach that financial freedom number? Well, then you probably got to keep working until you have enough money saved up. And therefore, how important do you think it is to start saving and planning for your future now? It's absolutely critical that you start on these things now. But the good news is it's your decisions, not your conditions, that determine your destiny. So in other words, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. You got to get money working for you so someday you don't have to work for money. So reaching your financial freedom number. How much money would you say the average person wastes or spends unnecessarily each day or each week? That could be going out to lunch every day, could be ordering from DoorDash, clicking around on Amazon, or going to the movies. Those are all fun things to do, but they're not necessities in life. So when I ask a typical family, they're going to say on the low end about $20 per day. So that's for like a couple. So that's $100 a week or $400 a month. Can you imagine what a family could do if they made a decision to just take half of that and put it towards controlling their money and getting on track financially? You got to remember, as life changes, your plan changes. So if you get married, you have kids, you change your job, your plan needs to be updated. But as part of a strong financial plan, there's two irreversible problems we're going to avoid. Number one is if you die too soon. That would completely devastate your family, not only emotionally, but financially. And we can certainly prevent the financial devastation that comes with the loss of a loved one. Number two is if you live too long, which sounds kind of funny, but have you ever walked into a Walmart, a grocery store, and seen grandma working, right? It's not because she likes people. It's because the average Social Security check is only about $1,400, $1,600, which is very difficult to live on. So one of the biggest fears people have is outliving their savings. So we have to make sure that we have a plan that's going to get us to our financial freedom number, but then also where we're not going to outlive our savings. So here's what life looks like. In the early years, you have a lot of responsibilities. You're raising kids, you got a mortgage payment, maybe a car payment, paying off those pesky student loans. So you got to make sure you're protecting your income during that process. So remember, the average family wastes between $400 and $1,000 a month. So let's say this family here, it's 500. Imagine if they took just half of that to put towards protecting their income and starting to invest for their future. So they put a small piece towards protecting their income. So heaven forbid something happens to one of them, the family can still carry out their goals and dreams. They're working on paying down their debt during this process and then investing their money. So at some point in time, they have enough money saved and invested that they can live off of that the rest of their life. So their need for the income protection or life insurance goes down and can ultimately go away. So that's one of the biggest lies ever told in the financial industry, is that you need insurance for your whole life. You don't. You just need it until you're self-insured. That way your family can carry out their goals and dreams. So we're talking about creating wealth, investing, building that lifestyle that you want. And that is done by a combination of wealth building as well as protecting in the process. So we're going to start off by talking about protecting in the process, protecting your income, which is your number one asset to your family. And here's the 5 biggest mistakes people make. Number 1 is procrastination. They don't wake up in the morning and think about getting life insurance. Nobody does that, right? We're busy. You're running kids to soccer games. You're going to your 9 to 5. So the last thing you do is wake up thinking about this. But it's super important because remember, your income is the number 1 asset to your family. Number 2 is you simply don't have enough. You might have 50,000, but you really need 500,000. Again, because your income provides so much to your family. Number 3 is depending on life insurance at your job. Most people don't understand the risk involved with that because you actually don't own it. And if you leave a job, you no longer have it. Number 4 is having the wrong kind. And number 5, the right kind, but with the wrong company. Yes, that's a thing. Not all companies are created equal. Unfortunately, the industry, there's a lot of companies taking advantage of families, not understanding how this works. So it's very important that you have the right kind, but with the right company. So a picture's worth 1,000 words. Why are we talking about life insurance, protecting your income, and what does that have to do with building your financial freedom down the road? Well, here's a typical family. Both husband and wife are working, but notice how their incomes added together matches their monthly expenses. They have the typical things, your mortgage, your insurances, you got to keep the lights on and feed your kids. But what happens to this family now? That is the financial disaster we were talking about earlier, because they were already living paycheck to paycheck, which is what 78% of people do, regardless of how much money they make. But how's this mom going to raise her daughter for the next 12, 15 years with half the income and the expenses stay the same? That is where it can be very difficult and why it's so important to protect your income for your family. Couple quick highlights for you on why it's so important to own something. This is what's called group life insurance. No matter where you work, it doesn't matter the company, all group life insurance works the same. It's a contract between the employer and the insurance company. So who do you think makes all the decisions? That's right, the company you work for. And so in this example, read this paragraph. This certificate is part of the group policy. The group policy is a contract between MetLife and the policyholder and may be changed or ended without your consent or notice to you. That means they could raise the cost, they could lower the coverage, they could cancel it, and even if you were to die, they don't always have to pay. So it's very, very important that you own something. That way you control it and you know that your family's taken care of. So one last quick highlight. Again, remember you want to have the right kind of insurance, but also with the right company. And so here's the 2 main options out there for you. You have cash value insurance, which are things like whole life, universal, and then you have term life insurance, which is protection only. It works just like your car insurance or your homeowner's insurance. But notice On the cash value side, you get very little coverage. It's very expensive. And this savings that they say you're building up, in most cases, that money, if you were to pass, goes back to the insurance company. And they like to market it to you as a great way to save for your kids' college or for future expenses. But what they leave out is that's a loan. If you take money out, you have to pay it back with interest. And if you don't, they're going to subtract what you owe from the death benefit if somebody passed away. So instead, if you want to protect your income, never combine products. If you want to save and invest, save and invest. If you want to get insurance, get insurance. Never combine the two. We don't do it for anything else. So why would we do it for the most important thing, which is our income? So instead, always opt for term life insurance. Notice it's a lot more coverage for a lot less cost, and then you can control your money. You invest on your own. And so by the time you're ready to retire, you have a lot more money accumulated than this whole program over here. And if somebody were to die, you get to keep whatever savings and investing you have at the time. So 3 takeaways: never combine insurance and investments. Life insurance does not create wealth. It only makes the insurance agent or company wealthy. And 3, you do not need insurance for your whole life. You just need it until you are financially free. You have enough saved and invested so you no longer have to work for money. Step number 2, this is probably very important in our current times, that you understand you need to save before you invest. Specifically, you have to have your emergency funds, both a short-term and a long-term. So short-term is going to be $3,000 that you have in a savings account. If you have to sell something, but get that amount of money immediately. That keeps you from slipping back into credit card debt and not being able to cover basic expenses when an emergency arises, such as new car tires, an AC repair, a plumbing expense. If you use it, replace it right away. Number 2 is your long-term savings. This is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. And everybody was woken up to this fact during the pandemic, where a lot of people were laid off, millions of people, and were waiting by their mailboxes for a stimulus check. And I understand that. But if you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses, it really lowers your stress and gives you that confidence that you're going to be able to weather that storm, whether it was pandemic related or you're laid off from a job because you're looking for something better. Whatever the case, always have that money set aside. You should always use a savings account, but over here, months 4, 5, and 6, you could invest that in a non-retirement account. I would recommend conservatively, and a financial coach, financial advisor would be able to guide you on making those decisions. So the part we all like to talk about, creating wealth, investing for your future. This is the fun part, but notice this is step number 3. Warren Buffett said it very well. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you're going to work till the day you die. That sounds depressing, but it is a harsh reality that you have to have money working for you so someday you don't have to work for money. Now, here's how banks work. Notice banks are not for investing. They're only for your short-term savings. When banks act as a creditor, here's what they do. They loan us out money, personal loans, mortgages, credit cards. We have to pay that back with interest. And it could be as high as 32% if it's a credit card. Personal loans could be the 3 to 8%. Now, what about when they act as savers and investors? Again, this is why I'm saying banks are not a place for investing, only for your emergency funds. Because if we put all of our money into things like CDs or cash value life insurance, they take the money, they invest it in the economy, they'll make a whole bunch of money, and then are happy to give you back just a small piece. So instead of making the banks and insurance companies wealthy, let's bypass them altogether. You control your money, you invest directly, and then you get to keep those larger returns. So control your money. Don't let those other companies do it for you. So that leads me to, you're probably wondering, where do I invest money? How do I do this? There's only 3 places to do it. 1 is under your mattress, I think we can all agree that's not the best place. Banks, we've already said, those are for your emergency funds. And then finally, in the market through investing. So under your mattress is obviously not the safest or most profitable way to save. And in banks right now, there's over $19 trillion sitting there earning less than 1%. Well, inflation is obviously way higher than that. The cost of living goes up each year. So in essence, you're losing money if you're putting it in the bank. Again, only your emergency fund should be there because it's protected, and you might need that immediately. Banks are not where you're going to grow your wealth. So that only leaves the market, IRAs, 401ks, other types of investments. And for some perspective, the S&P 500 has averaged 17% over the last 10 years. In 2020 alone, it got over 18%, and 2019 was 31%. So I think you guys can agree that that is a much better opportunity for you to get money working for you. So if that's the obvious choice for long-term growth, why don't more people do it? Common answers would be fear, lack of knowledge, and I completely understand that. So we're going to cover some basics here. First, when should you start? Well, if your goal is to accumulate $2 million by the time that you retire, and yes, if you're like 40 years, 45 years or younger, you're going to need at least $2 million to be able to live a middle income lifestyle come retirement. So if you start when you're 25, you only need to invest $350 a month, and you will reach that goal. But what if you wait till you're 35? Maybe you graduate college, start your career, maybe start a family. Now you have to contribute nearly 3 times as much, almost $900 a month, to be able to hit that $2 million goal. But what if life takes you a little bit longer to get started? You still want to reach the 2 million, but now you're 45. You have to contribute nearly 7 times as much, $2,400, to reach that same 2 million. Now, if you're 45 plus and a little pit in your stomach just started dropping on you, then don't panic. There is still hope to do that, because remember, investing is just a piece of your plan. It's that managing of debt, your insurances, and the investing, all of that works together, and it is very possible for you to still reach that goal. So who can help you? Well, when I ask people, where do they get their investment advice from? Common answers are, well, my friends or family, my coworkers. And the worst place of all would be the news, right? If it's on the news, it's already happened. It's history. And they're only there to promote the news, to sell the news. So they're going to promote fear, all that stuff to get you to tune back in the next day. Do you know that only 1% of people actually work with a financial advisor, according to CNBC? But everybody deals with money on a daily basis, and we have a coach for everything. We have a car coach, we call him a mechanic. We have a health coach, we call him a doctor. So the most important thing that pays for all that stuff, money, don't you think we should have a coach for that too? And I understand a lot of advisors out there won't talk to you unless you have $250,000 or more. But that's what I really appreciate about RFinances, is that we're here to help everyone, regardless of how much money you make, because the rules of money don't change, whether you have $50 a month to invest or $50,000 a month to invest. It all works the same. So what is the role of a financial advisor or coach? Well, it's to educate you, of course, so you understand how it works, but then give a simple to follow plan. At the end of the day, it's really just to keep you from making bad decisions with your money, so that you can worry less and enjoy your life more today. When you see the news and the stock market going down, that's when you need to lean on your advisor more than ever before, because money is emotional. The role of that advisor or coach is to take the emotion out of it and remind you of these basics of money, how investing works, so that you stay focused on the long term and won't make those mistakes of taking money in and out of the market and losing all that money. Now, you don't have to look far to find a friend or colleague that's talking about the latest, greatest app and how they're an investment genius and doing it right from their phone, right? Everyone is a pro in a bull market. So even the most amateur of investors should have made money over the last handful of years. But one of the concerns about where the market's at currently is one of the indicators is how many amateurs are getting into the market. Well, about 300,000 new accounts of Robinhood are being opened per day. And that's consisting primarily of individual stock trading, which is the most risky way to invest, especially long term. That can be a great learning tool for you, but only invest money you're willing to lose, right? So if you spend $50 a month going out to the movies and you'd rather use that to learn about investing, great, do that. But don't sacrifice your retirement savings on something speculative that you're just learning about. Make sure you're sticking with things like your 401k, opening an IRA, and so on. Most people are reactive. They're late to the game, and those are the people that end up losing the most in the process. So let's talk about some basic rules to keep you focused on your long-term strategy. Number one is the most important. It's called diversification. In other words, don't put all your eggs in one basket. How do you do that? Well, there's different size companies you can invest in. There's large, medium, small, international, and fixed assets. And that really just describes the size of the company. There's also two strategies you can invest in, value and growth. Value is a buy and hold strategy where you'll research that company. You think that they have the best managers, great product, and that they're probably worth $100 a share, but the market says they're worth $80. So you'll buy it and hold on to it until the true value is realized. Growth are companies in momentum. They're buy and sell strategy. And you can invest in any of those combinations, large value, medium value, and so on. So considering the most important rule of investing, not putting all your eggs in one basket, you would want to invest in many of those as possible. And here's why. In 1 year, large cap growth might be the winner, but medium value underperformed. But that's not to say the next year that large cap growth underperforms and international value overperforms. And a general trend is that the winners will always outpace the losers. So if you're spread out and diversified, you're looking for that consistent growth over time, not necessarily looking to match what an index or the market's doing. Okay. Rule number 2 is staying focused on your strategy in the good times and in the bad times. So the market goes up, it goes down, but over time has always had a trend upwards. So let's give a little snapshot back in history here. 2008 to 2009, the market dropped almost 50%. Then by 2019 was up to 29,000. What made the market go down? Common answers I get, people talk about the housing bubble, banks being bailed out, the mortgage collapse, GM and Chrysler getting bailed out, political things going on, as well as 2 wars. Well, I'm here to tell you, none of that made the market go down. Even though you heard it on the news, you heard all the smart guys with Coke bottle glasses talking on CNBC and advisors telling you that this is what made it go down. That had nothing to do with it. And I'm going to prove that to you here in a moment. The only thing that makes the market go down is more people selling than buying. Well, what about fear, Ryan? Fear has nothing to do with it either, because we could all be as fearful as can be, and if we just didn't touch our money, the stock market would have stayed the same. So therefore, the only thing that can make it go back up is more people buying than selling. And you know that instinctually, right? Supply and demand. That's exactly how it works. But here's why I know none of those things made the market go down, because just a short 10 months later, the market almost fully recovered. But did any of those things get better? Were mortgages suddenly good to go? Were the wars over? Of course not. Actually, all of that got worse, but the market almost fully recovered. That's because, remember, there's only 3 places to put your money: under the mattress, in the bank or in the market. So when everybody panicked, they pulled their money out, they put it under the mattress or in the bank, and then they realized, well, the banks are paying me less than 1% in interest. I'm never going to get wealthy or reach my retirement goals that way. So what did they do? They took it out of the bank, put it back in the market, and that was more people buying than selling. That's what made it recover so quickly. The same thing happened in March of 2020 during the shutdowns here. Everybody panicked due to COVID. They pulled their money out, but COVID had nothing to do with it because the market fully recovered in a short period after that, and obviously has well exceeded that since. Rule number 3 I want you to keep in mind is dollar cost averaging. Never try to time the market, just consistently invest over a long period of time, and that's going to put you in the strongest position possible. So if you're in the market to buy apples and they cost you $10 a piece in month number 1, and your budget is $50 a month, that means you could buy 5 apples. Well, in month number 2, the sun's shining, the rain's falling, there's apples everywhere. Same $50 a month, they're only $1 now, so you can get 50 apples. Well, in month number 3, there's a drought that came through, so you can hardly find any apples. Now they're $25 a piece, so you can only get 2. So for 3 months, you bought apples, you spent $150, so your average cost is about $3. Now, did you ever spend $3 on apples? No, you didn't. But you did spend $10 and you spent $25. So if you tried to time the market 2 out of the 3 months, you would have guessed wrong. So if Farmer Joe down the street said, hey, Ryan, you really need to buy all your apples month number 1. That's the best month you're going to get. And I took advantage of that. That was a terrible mistake on my part because I heeded that advice, and now I would have to sell apples for over $10 to make a profit. But because I bought when they were high and when they were low, my average cost was $3. So I could sell my apples for anything over $3 and make a profit. So consistently investing over a long period of time lowers your cost per share or per apple and increases your ability to make a profit when you sell. Also, like when you're in retirement. Don't try to time the market. You're gonna lose most of the time, right? So don't necessarily listen to the advice you're getting from the Robinhood investor that's been doing it for 3 weeks, right? Make sure you stick to your strategic long-term plan for retirement. Just to reinforce that point, if you're trading all the time, like getting into the market, getting out of the market, you get hit a bad news cycle and you get scared, you pulled money out. Notice here, in a 20-year period, this person just missed 10 of the best days. And the best days, mind you, generally follow the worst days. Their return was only 4%. But if they would have just left their money in and been a long-term focus, they would have had double the rate of return over that same time period if they didn't make those mistakes. So again, the role of a financial advisor and coach is to keep you from making bad decisions with your money. I hope I've reinforced that with you. Money is emotional, but a coach, advisor can be objective with you. So how do you get started on your saving and investing? Here's a good visual for you. You got to save first, and then you can focus on investing. So those short-term emergency funds we talked about, the $2,000 to $3,000 for your short-term, new car tires, the heater goes out, you need a plumber to come, you got cash on hand to do that in your savings account. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in case you get laid off from a job, but any other short-term goals, whether that's college, a down payment on the house. Then you have your long-term investing, which we're going to cover next. But remember, those are only a piece of your overall plan. First and foremost, you always have to protect your income for your family. Having that term life insurance in place, so that way, heaven forbid something happened to you, your family, that financial house doesn't collapse on them. Next, getting out of debt as quick as possible And don't just be throwing darts at a dartboard to figure that out. Talk with a coach so they can strategically show you how to do that. Never, never, never pay somebody to help you get out of debt. That's the #1 FTC complaint, are these debt consolidation companies or these debt payoff companies. If somebody tells you got to pay them to help you get out of debt, run the other way. Never do that. A good financial advisor or coach will be able to help you do that. Emergency funds, we talked about that. And then your investing's way up here. It's important, but all these things need in place first. All right, so the long-term savings, long-term investing, there's 3 different types to this. You have employer-sponsored, most commonly a 401k. Then you have individual retirement accounts, like a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. And then you have various types of annuities. So a 401k, most companies, they will offer this as part of your benefits package. And that's great, but they don't necessarily do a good job of explaining how it works or helping you select the appropriate funds based on how old you are and what your investment objectives are. So make sure you're talking with an advisor or coach so that you have the right funds selected to reach your goals. Those accounts are generally tax deferred, meaning you're not paying taxes now, but you will in retirement. Some companies have a match. If they do, take advantage of that. There are limited options with that. It's whatever funds are offered through the program, which could potentially may or may not get you the best rates of return. And limited control. There's enrollment periods usually, and then if you leave a job, you can no longer contribute to that account. So common practice would be to roll over that money to an IRA so you can take back 100% control, continue investing in it, or have access to more options to give you that strategy you're looking for better rates of return, or just to diversify it better. There's also tax-free options available with IRAs called a Roth IRA. For many middle-income families, this is a great option, but make sure you're talking to an advisor or a coach to make sure you're selecting the appropriate thing for you. And finally, annuities. If you get an inheritance or you're in about a 10-year window getting close to retirement, this could be a great option for you to protect your money. The last thing you want to see is a 20% loss in your 401k. So a strategy would be you could roll some or all of that money into a vehicle that can protect that money for you. But again, talk to your advisor, talk to your coach to get that guidance and what's appropriate for you. All right, getting started. Step 3 here, evaluate where you're at. Here's my 4 criteria I give everybody. And as we start to wrap this up, I want you to write this down and go through it. Evaluate where you're at and decide if you need to make any adjustments or improvements. Number 1 is, what is your overall strategy? And believe it or not, the people I meet with that already have an advisor, they have the most difficult time explaining their strategy. It's because most advisors, they make it complicated. They like to impress you with charts, graphs, and complicated terminology, but it has to be simple. If you don't understand what you're doing, you're less inclined to follow the plan. So you should be able to explain it to a family member or a trusted friend so that they understand it, and then you know you have a simple to follow plan. Number 2, are you playing offense and defense? It's just like football. It does no good to only put the offense on the field, go down there and score touchdowns, and then not put the defense on the field to stop the other team. Because inevitably the offense is going to fumble at some point, and then the other team, just by default, because you have no defense, is going to win the game. So how does that work with investing? Let's say you have 100,000 invested, you lose 40% in year number 1, so you're down to 60,000. What would your rate of return have to be to recover that loss the next year? Well, most people think I lost 40%. If I get 40% back, I'm good to go. The return is based on your ending balance. So it's based on the 60,000. So you actually need 67% rate of return just to break even. So the likelihood of that is pretty slim of making it happen in 1 year. So that is why it's so important to have some defense as part of your overall portfolio to limit your losses and look for that consistent growth over time. Number 3 is fees and performance. There is absolutely nothing wrong with paying fees as long as the performance and value is justified, right? Fees are only an issue in the absence of value. So make sure that you're getting that education, make sure you're getting a plan that gives you the offense and defense, and most importantly, the customer service element. Are you being communicated to at a level that makes you feel comfortable with what you're doing? So when that market does go down, is your advisor calling you to remind you of the stock market goes up, it goes down? It's only people selling that's making it go down right now. Stick with your plan, or let's make these adjustments to maximize what you're doing. Customer service is extremely important as part of that. All right, so one last thing. I love this book, Simple Wealth, Inevitable Wealth by Nick Murray. Just some food for thought. He points out wealth is not determined by investment performance, by investor behavior. So when the market goes down, which it does, are you going to be reactive, get scared and pulled money out? Or are you working with a coach and have your mind right that what goes down must come up, and you're focused on your long term? What your funds do versus other similar funds is relatively unimportant. The critical issue is what you do and avoid doing. Again, it's all about behavior. Don't worry so much about, am I investing in ABC company or DEF company? It's probably pretty similar if they're in the same category of company or fund. It's more important about what are you doing? Are you staying focused on the long term? Are you pulling money in and out? That's where a coach can help you. And is it not common sense to know that you're far more likely to behave appropriately and thus achieve your goals with the help of a knowledgeable, caring coach? Again, we got a coach for everything. A health coach, we call him a doctor or a personal trainer. We got a car coach, we call him a mechanic. So wouldn't it make sense that you have a financial coach in your corner to help you make the appropriate choices, have a plan that fits your life, and help you go from where you're at to where you want to be financially? So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you got something out of this. Obviously, we could spend hours and hours talking about everything that goes into building your strong financial plan, but that's not the point. The point is it's got to be simple. It's got to be easy to understand. And most importantly, it has to fit your life, a plan that fits your life. So what I would encourage you to do is give us some feedback, rfinances.com/feedback. Let us know what you'd like to learn more about. Reach out to Tony if you have a place where you thought we could host an event live. That would be awesome. And then schedule a time today for your free financial review. Have a coaching session with one of our licensed financial advisors and coaches. They're going to be able to sit down, answer your questions. Again, it's free to you. We're compensated by over 100 companies that we partner with, so we never charge you for our time. And they can help you build a step-by-step plan to reach your goals faster. Stop the guesswork. Take action today. That way you can have confidence in all those decisions you're making and know that you're going to be able to get money working for you, so someday you don't have to work for money. Appreciate you guys watching. You have a great rest of the week.